Welcome back, everybody. Today we are moving into section 2 of Mastering IELTS Writing Task 2 with the IELTS teacher. This section is all about approaching the essay, and the first lecture we're looking at in this section is about the 4 different question types in IELTS Writing Task 2. So, 4 different question types. What are they? In IELTS Writing Task 2, you may be presented with a question which falls into one of 4 categories: an opinion question, a discussion question, an opinion and discussion question, and a situation question. You won't be told which question type you have. You have to identify the question type by the language given to you in the task. Now, some questions are going to appear on the screen here, which you may recognize if you are familiar with the IELTS test. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Discuss both views and give your own opinion. What are the problems? What solutions can you suggest? What are the benefits and drawbacks? Is this a positive or negative development? Which factors contribute to this? Is it realistic to expect these factors? Discuss the advantages and disadvantages. Do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? Now, what I want you to do is to pause the video here and see if you can match up each question to its respective question type. There will be 2 questions to each question type. And once you've done that, press the play button and we'll see if you got the answers correct. So let's see if you've got the right answers. We'll start by looking at the first question. To what extent do you agree or disagree? This is an opinion question. Discuss both views and give your own opinion. Discuss opinion. You can see it falls into the opinion and discussion category. What are the problems? What solutions can you suggest? This is a situation question. What are the benefits and drawbacks? This falls into the discussion category. Is this a positive or negative development? It's the opinion category. The conjunction or here helps us to identify that it's an opinion. Agree or disagree, positive or negative. Which factors contribute to this? Is it realistic to expect these factors? This is a situation question. Discuss the advantages and disadvantages. Can you got the conjunction and here? And finally, do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? Opinion and discussion question. If you got all those right, well done. If you didn't and you don't understand why you got them wrong, do leave a comment in the comments section to ask a question, and I will try to clarify why each question falls into its respective question type. Now, all of these question types are only important because they dictate the structure of the essay that you will write. So there will be a different structure for each of the question types. There are similarities. Every essay should only need 4 paragraphs: an introduction, a conclusion, and 2 body paragraphs. The introduction will always rephrase the question. The conclusion will always summarize the key points. But the differences are in the minor details. So, let's have a look at the formula for the structure for each question type. Look at this one here. In the introduction, we rephrase the question, we tell the reader our plan. In the body, we discuss the advantages in the first body paragraph, and in the second body paragraph, we discuss the disadvantages. The conclusion will summarize the key points, and we don't need to give the reader our opinion. Which question type do you think this structure matches? And this one. Rephrase the question, tell the reader your plan. Body paragraph 1, 1 problem and solution, or 1 factor and cause, etc. Something like that. In the second body paragraph, another problem and its solution, another factor and its scores. The conclusion will summarise the key points and state who should solve the problems or consider solutions. Which question type does that match? The third structure, rephrase the question, tell the reader your opinion and plan. In the first body paragraph, support your opinion with an argument and examples. In the second body paragraph, support your opinion further with a different argument and examples for that argument. In the conclusion, summarize the key points and restate your opinion. In the final structure, we want to rephrase the question, tell the reader your opinion and plan, but in the first body paragraph, discuss the side you disagree with. Then, in the second body paragraph, discuss the side that you agree with, making it clear that you agree. And in the conclusion, summarize the key points and restate your opinion. Which question type does that structure match? Hopefully, you've thought of an answer for each structure, and now we'll see if you've got that right. So let's start with the opinion question. With the opinion question, we want to rephrase the question in the introduction as always, but we also want to tell the reader our opinion. An opinion in the introduction is very important. In the body, we're going to support our opinion once, and then we're going to support our opinion even further. We do not have to entertain the opposite point of view. We only need to think about our own opinion. In the conclusion, we summarize the key points and we restate our opinion. So we want to state the opinion again. Contrast that with the discussion structure. In the introduction to a discussion question, you do not mention your opinion. In the body, you do not mention your opinion. You simply discuss the advantages and the disadvantages of a particular topic. In the conclusion again, you do not need to give the reader your opinion. You just summarize what those pros and cons were. Then for the opinion and discussion question, it's a bit of a mixture of both. So the introduction, we rephrase the question, we tell the reader our opinion. We do want an opinion in the introduction to opinion and discussion question. In the body, with the first body paragraph, discuss the side you disagree with. So that comes first. Discuss the side you disagree with first. Then you move to the side that you agree with and support an argument as to why you agree with it. Make it clear that this is your opinion. Then the conclusion, you summarize the key points and again you restate your opinion to give it a very clear position throughout the response. Finally, the situation question, it's a little bit different to the other question types, sort of has its own template. We are going to rephrase the question in the introduction and we're going to tell the reader our plan. But then in the body, what we do is we look at one problem and one solution in each paragraph. One of the problems in big cities is the high pollution rate. To solve this problem, we should invest more in green energy companies, something like that. And you do the same thing again for paragraph 3, or the second body paragraph. In the conclusion, you summarize those key points and state who should solve the problems or consider solutions. That's the only time in an essay like that where you may introduce some position vocabulary, like I believe or my view is that. So those are the 4 different question types. Those are the 4 different essay structures. Now you can use those to write an appropriate format for your essay. Welcome back everybody. Now in today's lecture we're going to look at what a band 9 answer looks like. Of course, you are probably not aiming to achieve a band 9 in your writing. You might be, but you're probably not. But regardless, it still can be very useful to have a look at what is involved in a band 9 answer so that you can have a better understanding of what the examiners are looking for from a good piece of writing. So instead of looking at slides today, we're going to look at a document and we're going to go through it piece by piece to learn why the essay succeeds and scores a band 9. Okay, So this is the essay that we're going to focus on today. This is our model answer. Let's look at the question first of all. Some people believe that there should be fixed punishments for each crime. Others, however, argue that the circumstances of an individual crime and the motivation for committing it should always be taken into account when deciding on the punishment. Discuss both these views and give your own opinion. So what we're going to do as we go through this question and the answer is we're going to pick out pieces of language and techniques which have been used to address the band descriptors. I will be explaining which of the band descriptors are addressed in each of the highlighted pieces of language, and I will also be pointing you to the lecture which tells you how to improve your skill in this area. So, first of all, we have a highlighted word in the question, and notice that we have lots of underlined words in the question as well. This is because we're looking at task achievement, underlining keywords to stay focused on the task requirements. You can learn about this in lecture 7, which is about planning effectively. Moving into the answer itself, notice that we begin with the word although. This covers the requirement for complex sentences. Here we're looking at a complex sentence by way of a subordinating conjunction, which is although. You can learn about these in lecture 23, which is titled Complex Sentences. So although there is no doubt that crime must be punished, it is important to consider which type of penal system is most appropriate. Let's look at the it is important to consider. This helps us to write a general statement in the introduction, and you can learn about these in lecture 10, incredibly quick introductions. Whereas penal system, this is allowing us to address the need for topic-related vocabulary, part of lexical resource, and you can learn about this in lecture 18, What's Your Topic? While some believe that a system of fixed sentences should be adopted, I support the view that punishments should be based on motives and circumstances. With I support the view, we're giving a clear opinion and we're presenting it in the introduction to make sure that we present the position throughout. You can learn about how to do this in lecture 16, creating and maintaining a position. So, moving to the first body paragraph. Those who advocate implementing a judicial process of set punishments may argue that this would make criminal trials more efficient. Let's have a look at the first part, implementing a judicial process. Certainly here we're using less common words and phrases, but also doing so with a good awareness of collocation. This is important for lexical resource. You can find out about this in lecture 19, the importance of collocation. And with more efficient, we're immediately presenting a clear central topic and a nice topic sentence, so a clear view and argument express, which is essential for coherence and cohesion. And you can learn about this in lecture 11, building body paragraphs. For example, once a jury has decided that a particular defendant is guilty of murder, the judge need only refer to the punishment for murder to sentence that person to life imprisonment. Let's have a look at the article here, the article the, which is a definite article. This is all about appropriate article usage, which is a very common error which is made in essays, but we need to make sure that we get these right to address the need for grammatical range and accuracy. And you can learn about articles and how to use them in lecture 22, simple sentences and common errors. The benefit of this is that a huge amount of time would be saved in court, thus leading to significant financial savings. As a result, more money could be spent on healthcare, education, and welfare. So as a result here is a very, very useful cohesive device that helps to link the previous sentence with that sentence. A range of cohesive devices must be used to address the requirements for Band 7 in Coherence and Cohesion. You can learn about cohesive devices and referencing in Lecture 13. And we have the word could here, which is a modal verb, and we're using this modal verb to avoid overgeneralizing. And this again helps us to score Band 7 and above in task achievement. And you can learn about this in Lecture 17, how to stop overgeneralizing. Let's move to the second body paragraph. However, I would argue that the above system is too rigid and a process of flexible punishments is much fairer. I would argue is being used here so that we can present an opinion in the second body paragraph, and this is appropriate for the question type, which is a discussion opinion question. And you'll learn about these in Lecture 5, the 4 different question types. The latter punishment system, which many countries use, leaves more room for compassion towards offenders who have been blackmailed or manipulated. Here we're using what is called a non-defining relative clause, and this again helps to add complexity to our sentences, further addressing the requirement for complex sentences and grammatical range. You can learn about relative clauses in Lecture 26. For instance, under this system, if a thief is able to prove that he had been bullied into committing his crime, he should be sentenced to less prison time than a thief who had been motivated by greed. 3 bits of language to look at here. First of all, for instance, we're using an example to support and develop a point, which is very important for task achievement. You can learn about this in Lecture 15, Developing Ideas. If a thief. Here we're using a conditional sentence to further improve our skills in grammatical range and accuracy. And you can learn about conditional sentences, which are very, very useful in Lecture 25. And finally, motivated by greed. Here we're trying to paraphrase the language in the task, which talked about motivation, paraphrasing by way of different word class. So you can learn about paraphrasing and synonyms in Lecture 21, which will help us to address the requirements for lexical resource. Finally, if instead fixed punishments were implemented, this sense of fairness and morality would be lost. You can see another conditional being used there. Let's look at the conclusion. In conclusion, while a legal system of fixed punishments might be more cost-effective and efficient, a procedure of assessing crimes based on circumstances and motives is more just, and justice, in my view, is paramount. So a few bits of language to go through here. Cost-effective. This demonstrates our ability to form words accurately and effectively. And you can learn about word formation in Lecture 20, which is important for lexical resource. More just. More just, comma. Notice the comma here, that's what we want to focus on. Punctuation is a very important aspect of grammatical range and accuracy, and you can learn about punctuation and how to use it accurately and effectively in Lecture 24. Justice, in my view, is paramount. Again, we are very clearly presenting an opinion with the language in my view. This helps us to address the need for a clear position presented throughout the response, a requirement of task achievement in Band 7. And you can learn about how to do this in Lecture 12, Quick Conclusions. Finally, we've highlighted the word count here, 264. This word count addresses the task requirements for 250 words, but doesn't go far over that. So we know that we will finish in time. So we're addressing all the task requirements by finishing the essay in time, therefore addressing task achievement. And you can learn about how to keep your word count down in Lecture 8, Time Constraints and Word Counts. I hope you found this model answer helpful. In the next lecture, we're going to look at how to plan the essay, which is the first step on the path to creating an answer just like this one. See you there. Hey guys, welcome back. In today's lecture, we're going to talk about planning your essay, an absolutely essential part of the process of writing your essay in IELTS Writing Task 2. Why is it so important? Well, there are a number of reasons why it's so important. First of all, it can help you to reduce the anxiety you feel, makes you feel more confident about how you go about the writing. It can help you to stay focused on the task requirements so that you get a better score in task achievement. Helps to save time. Although it takes time to write a plan, in the long run we're aiming to actually reduce the amount of time it takes to write the essay. Helps you to think about topic-related vocabulary, thus boosting your score in lexical resource. Can help you to organize your thoughts logically and coherently, thus boosting your score in coherence and cohesion. It can improve your general sense of coherence, again boosting that same score. It can also boost that cohesion. A third point to make here, we will be able to link our ideas much more cohesively if we plan our work. And finally, it helps us to spot little errors. Maybe we make an error in the plan, but when we come to the writing, we will notice that error and be able to correct it. So how do we go about planning? There should be a 3-part process to planning. Part 1 is to identify the question type. We looked at this 2 lectures back, the 4 different question types. So let's see if we can do that here, identify the question types. Some experts believe it is better for children to start learning a foreign language at primary school rather than secondary school. Do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? Remember the 4 different question types: opinion, opinion discussion, discussion, and situation. Which one do you think this is? Well, let's underline the most important language here. Do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? That is what gives away what type of question we're looking at, which is a discussion opinion question. So now we know the structure of the essay that we need. The second part of the process of planning is to underline the key words so that we stay focused on the task requirements. In this case, I would say that the key words are better, so we're thinking of comparatives, whether to start learning a foreign language at primary school rather than secondary school. So better, start learning a foreign language, primary school, secondary school. These are the key themes to think about in an essay like this. Helps us to stay focused on those ideas if we underline them. Of course, our advantages outweigh the disadvantages. Very key part. I trust that you'll be able to work out that that is important without underlining it, but we're underlining it here just to emphasize the point. And you can see all of these keywords here. So, this will help us to address all parts of the task, which is an absolutely essential criteria point for achieving Band 7 in task achievement. If you want to score Band 8, the only thing that changes is the word sufficiently. Sufficiently addresses all parts of the task, will allow you to achieve a Band 8. So basically just properly addressing everything. The final part of the planning process can be done in 2 different methods, and it's essentially the planning part. So the first method looks a little bit like this. You think about your body paragraphs only. You do not want to plan the introduction and the conclusion because they shouldn't need any planning. You should know exactly what you're going to do. We know we're going to rephrase the question. We know what our opinion is. We're going to state a plan. You don't really need to plan that part. You would want to plan the body though. So let's think about what we want here. Start with the side you disagree with. Maybe you think it is better to start learning a foreign language at primary school. If that's the case, then you can begin by looking at the disadvantages, the opposite side of beginning to learn a foreign language at primary school. So we'll just quickly do a few notes about what those are. Still learning own language, there's too much pressure, other subjects are more important, like math, science and sport, maybe a bit more support needed there. And then we move to the side that we agree with, so we can look at the advantages in this case. It's a critical learning period. The child's brain is forming connections. The earlier start gives us more vocabulary, become fluent even more quickly, and would lead to a successful future. Again, we don't really need to write a conclusion, plan, we know what we're going to do here. Now this is one method, and to be honest, I think this is the inferior method. I think there is a superior method for planning the essay, which we're going to look at now. And as I said, we only want to care about the body paragraphs. We're going to focus on those. In paragraph 1, as before, we're going to look at the disadvantages. But the difference with this kind of plan is that we actually plan every individual sentence. That sounds like it would take a long time, but over time, with a lot of practice, it can be done very quickly. So what we do is we look at each individual sentence and we give it a purpose. Now, we're sort of moving forward a bit too quickly here. If you want to know what these letters stand for in a bit more detail, then please go to the Coherence and Cohesion section of the course and look at building body paragraphs. I'm going to go through this quite quickly here. T essentially is a topic sentence where we just give our main arguments. S is support sentence where we just support the idea. Example for E, second supporting sentence here, a second example. Same down below in the second body paragraph. T, S, S2, E2 and R, which stands for result. What is the result? Essentially what we want though is about 5 sentences for each body paragraph. As I said, when we get to the Coherence and Cohesion section, we'll be able to look at this in a bit more detail. Today, just showing you the basic steps involved in planning your essay. Part 1, identify the question type. Part 2, highlight the key words. And part 3, actually plan the content of your essay. This entire planning process should be completed within 5 minutes to give yourself 35 minutes for the rest of the essay. Now, the next lecture is going to go into a bit more detail about these time guidelines. Hi again, welcome back. As mentioned, in today's lecture we're going to look at time constraints and word counts. So managing the time limit and the minimum word limit in IELTS writing task 2. So let's get started by looking at the time factor of the exam. Now in IELTS writing task 2, they say that you should spend about 40 minutes on completing the task. But what is the best way to divide your time between the paragraphs? That's what we're going to look at here. In my view, the best way to divide your time is to start by just spending 5 minutes on the plan. For some people that seems like a lot of time, but 5 minutes on the plan can save you many more minutes later on. The introduction also should just take 5 minutes. This is because the body paragraphs are more important. This is where the majority of your points for your band score come from. They come from the body. So each body paragraph is going to take 10 minutes, making 20 minutes for the body altogether. The conclusion, 5 minutes again. Shouldn't take any more than 5 minutes. Now if you add up all of those minutes, what you have is 35 minutes. So what do you think we should spend the last 5 minutes doing? Of course, checking our work. This can be the difference between a band 6.5 and a 7 and a 7.5. So 5 plus 5 plus 10 plus 10 plus 5 plus 5 gives us our 40-minute limit. That's an ideal world. Of course, on the day you won't really be thinking about, oh no, have I spent 5 minutes on the introduction? But this is what you should aim for when you are studying by yourself before the exam. Let's think about the word count then. In IELTS Writing Task 2, you are required to write at least 250 words. This is not optional, you must. If you don't write 250 words, you will lose marks for task achievement. So how should we split up these words? The introduction should contain 2 or 3 sentences, 40 words. The body paragraphs, much more important to develop these. They should be about 90 words each, more or less. And the conclusion, a little bit shorter than the introduction, usually just 1 or 2 sentences, that can be 30 words. When you add up all of these numbers, what you have is 250 words. So you need to think about improving the quality of your writing, not the quantity. You can score a band 9 with just 250 words. Once you reach the requirement for the minimum word limit, it's all about the quality of your writing, not the quantity of words which you put in. That's why it's important to leave yourself time at the end of the essay for checking your work. Don't just keep writing and writing, go back and check for errors to improve the quality of your grammar and vocabulary, coherence and cohesion. It's all about quality over quantity. One last point to make about handling anxiety, because I know that the time limits in particular can make people feel quite anxious, set in a few nerves, and this can certainly affect their performance. Just a few pointers here. Practice writing both with and without time constraints. So give yourself the freedom to write without time constraints at times. This can help you to just calm down a bit and can actually help you to write a bit more quickly. But do practice with both time constraints and without time constraints. Practice regularly. Don't just practice once a fortnight or maybe even just once a week. You should be practicing a number of times every week so you get used to those time limits. That will help you to avoid being so anxious on the day when you feel like you've not done enough practice. Practice with and without a clock by your side. It can be helpful to see what 40 minutes really looks like as you go along, but again, that clock can make people feel quite anxious. So maybe try not using it and also try using it. See what works best for you. Finally, do not worry about perfection, particularly when you are studying alone and thinking about time constraints. And don't worry about perfection on exam day because it will only slow you down. Just jump into the writing, try to write 250 words within 35 minutes, and then you can go back and worry about perfection. That last 5 minutes for checking your work, that's where you worry about perfection, trying to fix those grammar errors. So don't worry about perfection as you go through. It will just give you stage fright and prevent you from writing anything at all. Hello again, everybody. Now, in the years that I've been teaching IELTS, I've come across a number of students who have taken some rather misguided approaches into their exam. They told me that they heard about these pieces of advice on the internet or from a fellow student or from a teacher who was a little bit inexperienced. So what this lecture is going to do is highlight some of the most common of these misconceptions, 3 of the most harmful myths that can damage your Task 2 essay score. So myth number 1 is that you must write at least 300 words if you want to score band 7 to 9. Time is your most crucial resource in the IELTS writing test. If you waste your time, you will not get the score that you need. Writing more than 300 words is a waste of time. You don't need to write that many words to score a band 7, band 8, or even a band 9. You can score a band 9 with just 250 words. As long as the quality of the development of your ideas is good, then you can score a band 9. 250 word minimum. You're meeting the task requirements. Once you reach 250 words, quality is much more important than quantity. So save that time at the end for checking your work. 250 to 280 words is a good number. Check your work once you've finished your essay, and that will allow you time to check for grammar errors, thus boosting your grammar score, check for vocabulary errors, thus boosting your lexical resource score. Much, much better idea than just trying to fill up a page with writing. Myth number 2 then, always include your opinion. This depends on the question type. Although you are often required to give your opinion in task 2, there are some essays in which you should not give your opinion. Look at this one here. These days, more and more people are going to other countries for significant periods of time, either to find a job or to study. There are clearly many benefits to doing this, but people who live abroad can also face some difficulties. Discuss the advantages and disadvantages of living and working in a foreign country. In the question above, where are you asked to give your opinion in any way? That's right, nowhere. Therefore, we do not include an opinion. If you do want to include an opinion, only put it in the conclusion, or you will lose marks for task response, and again you will lose time which could be spent on correcting errors and developing your ideas. The above question is a discussion question, and discussion questions do not need opinions. Last myth. The introduction is the most important paragraph. But is it? First impressions are crucial. Of course, if you give a strong start, you'll have an impressed examiner, and that will make an impression on the rest of the essay. But the introduction is not the most important paragraph, and you must not waste time trying to create the perfect introduction. As we mentioned in a previous lecture, looking at timing, 5 minutes maximum for the introduction. It should not be any more than that, because the body paragraphs are far more important. So later on in this course, in lecture 10, we will learn how to write incredibly fast introductions. And actually that follows this lecture here. This is lecture 9. In lecture 10, we'll learn how to write very, very quick introductions, which does not mean sloppy or inaccurate or untidy. They will be good introductions as well. Now we learn how to write introductions very quickly and very accurately because the body of the essay, with the place where you develop your ideas, is far more important. The majority of your marks are going to come from the body of your essay. That's why we need to spend 10 minutes on each body paragraph to make 20 minutes altogether. That's 4 times as long as you spend on your introduction. So those are the 3 myths to remember and to avoid. Number 1, you need to write 300 words. You do not. You only need to write 250. Number 2, you need to always include your opinion. You do not. You would not include your opinion in a discussion essay. And number 3, the introduction is the most important paragraph. No, it isn't. The body of the essay is the most important area. So, thinking about those introductions, that's what we're going to look at in the next lecture. So I'll see you there.